It's Monday, May 17th, and it's time for your Barbados Today Morning news update. There's general compliance among employers with regards to the recently implemented national minimum wage. That's according to Labour Minister Colin Jordan, who however admits that there have been some complaints about the work hours of security guards. The national minimum wage of $8.50 per hour and a minimum wage for security guards of $9.25 per hour took effect on April 1st.
We have had some reports, though, that the hours that some security guards are being scheduled has been reduced. And I want to be very clear that the order indicated and still indicates that, in essence, the what a worker would ordinarily work before the minimum wage order came into effect is what we expect going forward. So I want to be very clear to security companies that we are not going to accept that they, because the rate has gone up, will reduce the hours of work of the employees.
Is that in law?
Sorry?
Is that in law? Or is
It,
there
it,
a
it is
suggestion from you? Or?
it is in the order, and it is written not to hamstring a business, because there may be some businesses that really have to make adjustments.
Cyclists admit they are scared to use the island's roads following the recent deaths of several colleagues. The disclosure from head of the Barbados Bike Hash House Harriers Francie Amon, as members on a Sunday placed a memorial in the form of a ghost bike, the first of its kind on the island along Maxwell Main Road, Christchurch, in remembrance of Melanie Watts, who died in March.
I think COVID-19 has affected us more than anything else because people are driving faster on the road because there's less cars on the road. People are in a hurry. They're not paying attention to bikers, to pedestrians, to runners. A lot of us have found that we're scared ever since Ezra's, Melanie's, and Rita's deaths to be on the road, and we're trying our best to not be on the road. We try to stay off the road as much as possible. But the road this is a straight road here. We just don't know how it happened. And it was 5:30 in the afternoon on a Friday, so we haven't heard anything about the case. We don't know.
Amon is hoping the memorial would increase awareness about road safety.
The ghost bike is meant to be a reminder and a memorial of an event where a biker loses their lives. And it's really something that when people pass, they see. We want people to share the road with other bikers and with even pedestrians, with runners, with walkers. So the bike, because it's white, it's at our near the spot, because the spot was just up the road here on the wall, and we couldn't use somebody's house. We're hoping that it will be a reminder to everyone to drive slowly, to take care and watch for cyclists, to share the road.
Patricia Watts is also hopeful her daughter's death would serve as a reminder for all road users.
Out of Melanie's death, something good would come, right? That this would be a part of the road safety campaign to educate Barbadians and the motoring public that we all need to take care as we use the road, and to understand that cyclists use the road basically the same way they do. They may not be as broad and as big, but they avoid potholes, they avoid rocks, so they swerve and things. So you have to give them that distance. You also, those people who drive heavy-duty vehicles have to understand that as they drive with the speed, the wind shear factor, that can offset cyclists and knock cyclists off their bicycles, and have an impact. So I hope that the families like the Mosley, Ezra Mosley family, the Allen family, and would not have to be, no other families will have to go through what we have gone through.
Opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley expresses concern about the spike in crime in the country. In recent weeks, there has been a spate of shootings and violent crimes on the island. Bishop Atherley believes that the increase is as a result of the lifting of some measures imposed on the country in a bid to curb the spread of COVID-19. And he is of the view that government should look at addressing the crime situation in a similar manner as the pandemic.
It would seem rather that because we were limited in terms of movement in Barbados with the COVID restrictions, then perhaps the criminal activity seemed to diminish a bit because obviously there was less movement, and I guess people up to nefarious activities would more easily be identified, seen, observed in a context of limited movement and curfews and all of that. I think with that gone, you're likely to see a return to that situation where the crime incidence in Barbados was very much a challenge to the country as well as to the law enforcement people. So I think that the reopening would probably be part of what is contributing to this new spike. Persons now seem to be taking the opportunity. Now people are more visible, and at the time, since they're more visible now, they're less observable, if you understand what I'm saying. So these people go after their targets. We need to free up some of the limited human resources that we have. We need to add to those human resources. I think the same disposition that government brings to the matter of dealing with COVID as a public health threat and an emergency, therefore, and doing emergency spending with reference to that. I think the crime situation in Barbados is at a level now, and the resources available to the police are so deficient and limited that some attention needs to be spent to be put into spending some money in that area to help the police better respond.
2 new positive COVID-19 cases were recorded on Saturday, May 15th, from 373 tests conducted. And health officials are also reporting that 5 people recovered from the virus and were discharged, while 88 people remain in isolation. Confirmed COVID-19 cases in the country now stand at 3,967, comprising 1,917 females and 2,050 males. A total of 3,922 people have recovered, while 46 people have died. Meantime, 75,920 people have received doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine under the National Vaccination Program for COVID-19. Of that number, 42,904 persons have been fully vaccinated against the virus.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from the region, Trinidad and Tobago's Chamber of Industry and Commerce gives government its full support on the recently imposed state of emergency.
The TNT Chamber says it will always seek to act in the best interest of society. It added that the sobering reality of our current situation is in part due to weak enforcement of restrictions, porous borders, and irresponsible behavior of the non-compliant. The Chamber says it looks forward to reviewing the regulations under the state of emergency, recognizing that citizens' rights must be protected and approved businesses should be allowed to operate under the terms of the SOE.
Utterly appalling. That's how United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Sunday described the current hostilities in Gaza and Israel, and he told those attending a virtual debate on the current situation in the Middle East that it must stop immediately.
This latest round of violence only perpetuates the cycles of death, destruction and despair, and pushes further to the horizon any hopes of coexistence and peace. Fighting must stop. It must stop immediately. Rockets and mortars on one side, aerial and artillery bombardments on the other must stop. I appeal to all parties to heed this call. The United Nations is actively engaging all sides towards an immediate ceasefire. The United Nations remain deeply committed to working with Israelis and Palestinians and with our international and regional partners, including the Middle East Quartet, to realize a lasting and just peace. We are in contact with many relevant interlocutors, and I again call on the parties to allow mediation efforts to intensify and succeed. The only way forward is to return to negotiations with the goal of a two-state solution, living two states side by side in peace, security, and mutual recognition, with Jerusalem as the capital of both states, all based on relevant UN resolutions, international law, and prior agreements. The longer this cycle of violence continues, the more challenging it will be to reach that ultimate goal.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.